Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Stogie Review Video Review. I am Walt White, and we're back once again for another weekly cigar review, or video cigar review. Obviously it's video, you're watching me. But in any case, I'm back once again. It's, I guess it's about the second week after IPCPR, or the second week I've done a review after IPCPR in New Orleans. And I've got another cigar that I've brought back with me from New Orleans. Now, this wasn't a cigar that was debuted at the show, but it was one that was given to me at the show. It was actually given to me on camera during the Davidoff tour that Jerry and I went on, and that is the Davidoff Seleccion 702, and it is the limited edition 09. And actually, Danielle from Davidoff gave these to us, and when she first said Davidoff limited edition, the first thing I thought, for whatever reason, was the Avo line. Here I am thinking, no, I guess it's about time for a new Avo LE to come out, and it never really clicked that she actually meant Davidoff, because I had never smoked a limited edition Davidoff before. I had always, you know, the thought just triggered in my mind that the limited edition line was for Avo and not so much for Davidoff, but. So I brought a couple home with me, and smoked one so far, and this is going to be my second. I've got one more, but I didn't get a chance to smoke that earlier like I would have liked. I got a little sidetracked, so I'm going to smoke one on camera, and we'll smoke that third one at some point, and I'll drop a comment on the video to see, or to let you know whether or not it was up to par with the other two, or how that went. Now, before I fired up the video camera, I was actually trying to do a little bit of research on the 702 wrapper that's on the cigar, and I didn't find a whole lot of information on it. So I'm kind of defaulting back to the sales information that Davidoff provided me with. Now, just some generic information is that this has a 702 wrapper on it from the Dominican Republic. And the blend of tobacco is Piloto, Olor, and San Vincent tobaccos. Choice growing areas, intense flavor, powerful yet smooth, refined. The wrapper is sun-grown Ecuadorian Seleccion 702 wrapper. Offers an elegant spice and preferred in the larger format cigar. This only comes in one size. It comes in boxes of 10. It's rather pricey. A single stick is 26 bucks, and a box of 10 is $260. There is no price break for bulk purchases, or box purchases, if you will. Both of those are suggested retail prices. It comes in one size. It's a Toro Especial, and ring is a 48, and the length is 6 5/8. And like I said, this is my first limited edition, so I really don't know anything about the years before this. So we'll just dive right into the cigar and get things underway. Now, I actually got started doing this review a little bit later than anticipated, because something caught my eye and I just had to get a couple of pictures of it, because it was kind of an annoyance. It's something that I mention every now and again that I don't like, and here we are seeing it twice on a $26 cigar. So I made a point to take a couple of photos of it. Whether or not it's something you would consider is an issue with a cigar like this, well, that's completely up to you. But for me, it is an issue even with a $4 cigar. But for a $26 cigar, personally, I think it's unacceptable. And so let's see if I can try to get it in the camera for you. Now, I mentioned on some of these other reviews this issue, and I call them stutter marks. There's a seam that spirals up the cigar. It's where the leaf is applied and rolled. Typically, that spiral is pretty easy to see. If you just turn the cigar and watch the seam spiral up, it should be nice and smooth. There shouldn't be any jagged marks or variations in it. It shouldn't look like it was torn away or anything like that. It should be a nice, smooth, clean cut. It's when you watch cigars being rolled, it is the top cut of the leaf. It's supposed to be nice and straight, and no variation, because that's the one you see. The bottom one, from what I understand, it can be a little ragged. It can have those stop and start marks in it. It'll be covered up by the wrap, so you'll never see it. It's the top one that matters. And when I see stuff like this, it kind of bothers me a bit. If you can eye in on that seam, you can see that it looks like it was torn away. It's not straight, and if we look further down, you can see it's a little ragged down there. So those are the types of things that kind of bother me, and it's something that I deem as unacceptable on a cigar that is this expensive. Aside from that, the wrapper looks great. It's nice and uniformly, the color is nice and uniform from head to foot. It's got a nice oily sheen to it. It's got it's almost got a reddish hue to it. It's a nice dark brown, deep brown. Just all in all, a very attractive looking wrapper leaf. It's just those two blemishes that I showed you that really take away from the wrapper, or take away from the presentation of the cigar, if you will. So far, it's just those two things that are bothering me so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and move right along. Cigar feels pretty firm, nice and uniformly packed with tobacco. I'm not feeling any soft spots, anything that feels underfilled or that would cause any potential problems. And looking at the foot, everything looks pretty good. It's not overly tight where I would think I'm going to have a stiff draw. It looks to be aired out or spread out just enough that I should have an excellent draw. So I'm going to go ahead, get everything opened up, get the cigar lit, and get this first part of the video stopped, because we're almost at 7 minutes and I never intended to go that long. So pre-light draw is nice and free. It's got a sweet spice to the cold draw. Not really up front. Or not very strong or potent. It's pretty mild, very laid back, sort of a sweet spice. So let's go ahead, get this thing lit, and get this cigar rolling. So I don't want it to last entirely too long. As I mentioned, I got a late start, and I go to bed early. I get up at 4:30 a.m. So I don't want to be smoking a cigar all night. I'm dead tired in the morning. Alright, so I got my cigar lit. Initially, it's got a lot of punch and a lot of spiciness through the sinuses, and it was the first thing I noticed about the other cigar that I smoked, the first one, was that I really liked that upfront, strong punch in the sinuses. Very spicy, very upfront, very bold, and you know, it was just very enjoyable. So I got my cigar lit. Appears to be burning well, and with that said, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back in just a second. We'll take a look at the first third of my Davidoff 702, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, well, welcome back. It's been about a half an hour now, and I'm plugging right along on my Davidoff Seleccion 702. Wow, I'm disoriented here. And as you can see, I've got a nice, tightly compacted, conformed ash. Got a very nice appearance to it. It wasn't always like that, though. The ash actually fell off once. It was a little bit longer than this. And I had a burn line that was kind of goofy. It started off fine, but as I started smoking, it just kind of got a little off kilter on me. Did a little touch up, and it's been good ever since. Burn line is fairly thin. It's a little wavy, but it's not too bad in all. The ash, even though it did fall off earlier, seems to be pretty tightly compacted. Seems pretty strong. No real issues there. One thing I did notice, though, is the cigar seems to be smoking a little fast. I know I've said I've been at this for half an hour, and there's not a whole lot of cigar going, but just the way it feels as though it's burning a little fast. The draw it's a little loose, but like I've said time and time again, I'd rather have a cigar that was a little on the loose side than a little too tight. I can't stand a cigar that's got a draw that's a little firm for my liking. And in this case, I don't mind it being a little loose. I think that may be why I feel as though I'm smoking it a little fast, but all in all, it's not bad. In the body department, the cigar starts off very bold, very spicy, just very upfront, and really grabs your attention. The body comes off as being full. You get the impression it's going to be a very full-bodied cigar with lots of spiciness, and you're only at the tip of the iceberg. It's just going to get stronger, more powerful, more flavorful as you go. But really, as you get into that first inch of the cigar, it settles down quite a bit, and the body ends up just settling down into what I would consider medium. Now, as far as the mouthfeel goes, it's got, I don't know, I almost want to call it sort of a chewy sensation to it. It's not really thick, but I don't know, it just seems kind of chewy. In regards to the flavor, the one component that's really standing out is like I don't know, it's like a medley of flavors. And just glancing at my notes, I've got a mixture of, I'll find it real quick. I got 3 paragraphs on the page. I can't find the note that says what the flavors are. Alright, so I've got sweet, woody, a little bit of a black pepper flavor, and after I made the note, I also started tasting sort of like a citrus flavor, and not any one is dominant over the other. They all just sort of bounce back and forth, and it makes for a very interesting, very rich flavor up front, and I like it a lot. And it makes me wonder, you know, if I'm getting this much complexity and this much richness out of the cigar this early on, can this cigar sustain that level of intensity or richness, or will it just sort of crumble on itself and, you know, not be able to top what I'm getting now and just eventually just start breaking down, leaving, I don't know, something that I would consider average as far as complexity goes later on. You know, they don't always maintain that level of complexity, which is why I'm not thinking it's going to. They either get more complex or they start, I don't know, crumbling in on themselves or collapsing in on themselves. So I'm really interested to see where this cigar is going to go in that regard. And I already mentioned the burning characteristics and whatnot, and this video is going to be really long anyway, so I might as well just dive right into what you probably want, you know, what's probably going through your mind at this point. Price point, $26 cigar. Why am I smoking a $26 cigar? Well, because I am. I mean, I did a series of Davidoff reviews on my personal blog a couple months back, and you know, a couple of the questions that came in were all more or less the same. And that was, well, why are you smoking these really expensive cigars for these first impressions reviews? This is really out of character for you. Anytime I see you on Twitter or you know, I meet you or whatever, you're always smoking a $4, $5, $6, $7 cigar. What's the deal? Well, certainly not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I've got I was fortunate enough to get this cigar as a gift from Davidoff, from Danielle from Davidoff, at the IPCPR convention in New Orleans. And the other cigars I actually got from Danielle as well. She had sent them to me just because, and I appreciated that, and I did the first impressions reviews on them. And over the course of all those reviews, I went into why I felt that Davidoff was justifiably as expensive as they were. I know a lot of people look at them and say, that's crazy, I'd never spend that kind of money on the cigar. It's just, I don't know, if you can afford Davidoff, you can afford to throw your money away, that kind of thing. I also hear a lot of, you know, I've got better things to do than waste my money smoking air and things like that. You know, not all Davidoff cigars are very mild, and this is one example of that. While it's not mild and it's not full-bodied, it is medium and it's very bold to start. It's very interesting, and you know, I really like it. It's not what, I don't know, what you would think of Davidoff for whatever reason. Now, a lot of people associate Davidoff with mild cigars. Now, I don't have vast experience with Davidoff. I don't care for the Honduran Zino Classic line. And I don't remember which one it is, but I don't know whether it's the Anniversary or the Classic. But one of them really blew me away. I loved it. Thought it was fantastic, and would definitely pay the $16 or whatever it was to smoke it again. But throughout those videos, I mentioned why I felt that Davidoff was as expensive as it was, and that was consistency and quality control. Now, I made a point earlier as to show you the two blemishes that are on the cigar. Personally, I think they're subpar for Davidoff standards. I'm not quite sure why they are on a cigar this expensive. The presentation of the other cigars that were probably $10 less a stick were better than this one. So, and actually the first one I smoked looked far better than this one. I guess I picked the bad one to do the review on, but either way, I'm sort of going against what I said in those other videos, was that you're paying for consistency with Davidoff. In theory, you should be able to pick up this Davidoff off the shelf and smoke it today, and it will be very consistent, if not identical, to what you're going to pick up 3 months from now at a different cigar shop out of a different box and light up and smoke. In theory, they should both be the same. You're paying for consistency across the line, not just in a box, across the entire line. So when you smoke a 702, it should be the same today as it is 6 months from now, as it was 6 months ago. And that's, you know, you're paying for that kind of quality control. You're also paying for a top-notch presentation, which is kind of what irks me about the two blemishes on the wrapper, or the two what I call stagger marks on the wrapper, or hesitation cuts on the wrapper. But in theory, when you purchase the Davidoff, you're paying for a top-of-the-line cigar, in the sense that quality control is peak or paramount. So that does kind of irk me. But and that, again, not to get this too long, but that was the entire, I don't know, summary of what I said in those other videos as far as why Davidoff is as expensive as they are. So now that I've sort of stumbled all over my own words, and I'm watching the clock tick almost to 10 minutes on this segment, I'm going to take another quick break. I'll be back in just a minute. We'll take a look at the second third of the Davidoff Selection 702. I'll try to talk a little bit less and get this review rolling. So sit tight, I'll be right back. Alright, well, I'm back, and it is the second third of my Davidoff Selection 702. And it's been about an hour and 10 minutes now, and we're doing pretty good so far. Haven't had to touch up the ash, or haven't had to touch up the burn line again. It's a little wavy in spots. Still, it's fairly thin. The ash color is fairly light. It's nice, tightly compacted, relatively strong. Holds on for about an inch before a gentle tap knocks it off the end of the cigar. The draw is about the same, still a little loose for my taste, but again, not too bad. And just as before, smoke rate, or the burn rate, seems to be a little elevated, again, probably due to the looseness of the draw, which again isn't all that bad, but it still got me, I don't know, in sort of in a fast-paced sort of mood, I guess. In the flavor department, there isn't a whole lot of change. I'm still getting a sweetness, cedar flavor, and a black pepper flavor that make sort of a medley of a primary focus, or a primary flavor. And it's very interesting. It's dynamic. It's complex. It's become a little more rich as I've smoked along, but it is still the main focus. Now, as that flavor medley fades, as I expel the smoke out of my mouth, there's a secondary flavor that comes in, and it's a little bit more of that citrus flavor that I mentioned before. Now, there's also a very strange flavor in there, which I'm not really sure how to explain. It's sort of a heat, but not really. And what I mean by that is a reference that I've done before in these reviews, where I talk about like Louisiana hot sauce and that cayenne pepper sauce. I can't think of the name of it, but at any rate, it's more along the lines of like that Louisiana hot sauce, where it's less heat, more of a flavorful kind of a thing. I'm getting like this really light tinge of like a spicy, almost like a pepper heat, but it's more flavorful than it is hot, and I'm really struggling to explain what I mean by that. But if you smoke the cigar, it may be very apparent to you, but it does seem very apparent to me, and I don't know, it sounds crazy, but I'm definitely getting this sort of almost like a hot, flavorful pepper kind of thing going on as a secondary flavor. The citrus it comes and it goes, and this flavorful heat kind of a thing is in the odd position. If I'm getting sort of a citrus flavor this puff, next puff I may get this flavorful heat kind of a thing, and then back to citrus or not. You know, it's kind of random, and being random, I'm finding it really enjoyable. It's about time to take the bands off, and I'm generally not critical about the bands. Being white bands, it's kind of easy to see fingerprints on the back side, but again, this is something that maybe I'm nitpicking because of the price of the cigar and because it's a Davidoff, but this is seeing a little bit of a fingerprint with pectin and seeing the bands kind of skewed being placed on the cigar. It's a little bothersome. It doesn't really bother me too much, but enough that I'm going to bring it up, and probably not going to be able to see them, but there you go. May mean nothing to you, but again, you know, we're looking at a $high cigar. I do tend to nitpick these a little bit, and rightfully so, because they're a luxury cigar, and they come with you know, the sort of the ultimate, I don't know, lifestyle surrounding the brand. So you know, you expect perfection out of a cigar of this caliber. So I don't know, I guess I'm well within my right to nitpick it a little bit. So you know, all in all, I'm enjoying the cigar so far. I'm not having any burn issues. A couple of little cosmetic things here and there. It's smoking well. I'm really enjoying the flavor, and I'm looking forward to the final third. It's gotten more complex as I've gone, and just popped in my head that I didn't mention the body or the finish. The body has picked up ever so slightly. It's still well within what I would consider medium bodied. It's medium to full flavored, medium bodied. And the finish, it still has that sort of chewy quality to it. Not overly thick, but not thin, just enough that it kind of, I don't know, it gets that chewing movement out of your mouth. But there you go. So there's the second third of my Davidoff Seleccion 702. I'll be back one more time. We'll take a look at the final third. I'll wrap up the cigar, and I'll let you be on your way. So sit tight. Alright, well, I am back, and it's about time to wrap up my Davidoff Seleccion 702, limited edition 2009. And as you can see, the ash is nice and tightly compacted, holds on pretty well, lasts about an inch before falling. Burn line is fairly thin. It's a little more wavy now than it was in the previous third, but it hasn't really become a problem as of yet. As the cigar grows shorter, I'm finding that I need to pay a little more attention to how quickly I smoke the cigar. And the reason being is that the draw has loosened up a little bit, along with the rate in which I'm smoking. The cigar is getting a little warm on the fingers, across the palate, and the cigar is actually getting a little soft and mushy, and that's ultimately due to the heat. Now, as the cigar gets a little soft like this, it becomes a little tougher to keep lit. So it's a fine balancing act to keep it both cool and lit at the same time. So as a result, I need to touch it up every now and again, like right now, so that I can continue smoking it. The flavor profile has changed up considerably. In the last third, there seemed to have been a big shift, both in the flavor department and in the way the body comes across. In that sudden shift, the body transitions more towards what I would think of a full-bodied cigar. And in that transition, I lost that medley of flavor that I was getting, the sweet cedar and black pepper flavor, and it's transitioned more towards that sort of flavorful, I don't know, hot pepper sort of a flavor. The citrus is gone, but that red pepper sauce kind of flavor, if you will, it takes center stage, and it's pretty interesting. It's not overwhelming where it's irritating the sinuses or anything like that. It's keeping me interested. I'm really digging it. I like it quite a bit. And the finish has gotten, well, it's not really any smoother than it was, but the cigar remains smooth, easy to get through the sinuses. It's got a nice crisp and clean sort of sensation through the sinuses. It really doesn't have that chewy sensation anymore, or that sort of feel. But in the last third, we've seen a considerable transition in the way the cigar is producing flavor. And while it's kind of unexpected, I'm liking it. You know, I like the transition, and I like where it transitioned to. I really like that medley of flavors and what I was getting earlier on. Just before I would start to get bored with the cigar, it suddenly shifted into something totally different, and it really is keeping me interested, so I like it. So my final thoughts on the cigar. You know, what's probably pecking away at your mind is, do I think it's worth $26? And I'm not sure. The first one I smoked, I would have definitely said, yes, it's worth the $26. It was beautiful. It smoked just like this one. It was very interesting, very rich, flavorful, dynamic. But this one, I didn't get the other one had a draw that was a little stiffer. As a result, it didn't get warm, even down this far. I was getting a little bit of harshness from the warmth of the cigar. Obviously, slowing down solved that problem, but I didn't have that issue with the first one. I did have a couple of cosmetic issues with this one. So, I don't know. I'm in limbo. I don't know whether I could justify the price. I mean, realistically, I don't see myself going out and spending $26 on this cigar, unless it was for a special occasion cigar. I definitely could see myself buying one of these around Christmas time, around New Year's. Maybe 1, 2, possibly three a year. This isn't something I would smoke regularly. It's not a cigar that's meant to be smoked regularly, unless you've got the money to buy limited edition cigars all the time. But for me, I can definitely see myself picking up at least one for around Christmas or my birthday or something like that, my anniversary. You know, something you know, a celebratory kind of a cigar. You know, I could definitely see this fitting into that category. I wouldn't be buying this on a regular basis. I was disappointed to see those issues with like the stagger marks, as I called it, on the wrapper. All of the other examples of Davidoff that I've smoked have been pristine, and this one, I don't know. I guess the best way to put it is I think it's the way this was presented was subpar for what I think of Davidoff, and for that reason I think it kind of got docked as far as, you know, value or what I thought it was worth. But all in all, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I am looking forward to smoking the other one that I have, and I'll be interested to see how that one performs. Is it going to be consistent with this one? Is it going to be consistent with the first one that I smoked that I thought was exceptional? And I don't know, we'll just have to go from there. That about wraps up the Davidoff Limited Edition 2009 Selection 702 Toro Especial. And as far as what I'm smoking next week, I really have no idea. I need to get through a couple of things that I have set aside from before IPCPR. I've got some things from IPCPR I need to smoke. Most notably, before IPCPR, I have some Dutch cigars that I should have gotten to a long time ago, but I kept putting it off and putting it off, and I really need to get to it. I also have another Pinar del Rio cigar I want to smoke. One from the show, one from before the show. The one before the show was the Habano Sungrown. The one from the show is the VLR, Value Line Reserve, which Abe gave to me new from the show, which I think is like a $3 cigar, which was, well, I'll leave that for the review. But, you know, there's a lot of things in the works that I need to get through, and I'm not quite sure which cigar is going to be next. So keep an eye out on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook now for the first time ever. And I've been just dropping notes in there as well as on Twitter as far as what I'm smoking, what I'm planning on reviewing. So if you're on Facebook, look me up. It's Walt White, and you'll be able to see what I'm smoking, what I'm looking to do for the reviews. I'm also doing the same thing on Twitter, although I like having a little bit more room to write things in Facebook, so I'm giving a little more detail there. So there you have it. That's what's going on. That's what I thought of the Davidoff, and until next week, happy smoking.